we can all get better as agents, as lending professionals, when we know what's going on at the forefront of changes to financing, right? So we've talked about, and we'll touch on this again, some of the deferred maintenance changes that were made in 2023. And then I want to touch on, to start here, some changes in the condo insurance world that we have seen snagging deals with some other lenders that we've been called into. So when you think about some of the disasters that we have gone through over the past 5 years that have caused billions of dollars of damage in coastal communities, Hurricane Ian, right? You think about wildfires in California. Well, that has torched or destroyed a lot of really high value real estate. And those companies exist not in a vacuum, but they exist in multiple states. That's why you'll see companies like State Farm, leaving the state of California. You'll see insurance companies that will not lend in the state of Florida. And because they have lost so much through these natural disasters, Middle America is really subsidizing high value real estate on the coasts. Okay. So we've been building in about 25% higher.
So, Colin, this is Chris. I was doing property management for a little bit. And seriously, we're seeing the HOA fees go up because association insurance for the common areas are doubling.
So, yeah, when you talk about condo master insurance policies, you're talking about that comes out of the HOA dues, right? And so, when you go and buy a condo, and this affects PUDs and townhomes as well, right? You have a master insurance policy, and then you get an own individual policy that's called an HO6, right? That covers your unit, right? Okay. So if you were to slice the top off your condo and turn it upside down and shake it, right? That's basically what's covered in an HO6 policy. That's why it's so cheap, right? If you were to go buy a $400,000 single family home, your homeowner's insurance might be $2,500. You go buy a $400,000 condo, right? Your insurance policy might be $600, right? Because it's just walls in that are covered. And so, as Chris said, you're seeing those costs really go up. And as of 3 months ago, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which govern conventional loans, okay, so not FHA, not VA, not USDA, not jumbo, but conventional loans, 3% down, 5% down, 20% down, 32% down, okay, they are now saying, well, we're going to look at this master insurance policy a little bit more closely, and we're going to cap the wind hail deductible at 5%.
Seriously, I mean, I had one association, their master policy went from 58,000 to 116. It literally doubled.
Right. And who pays for that? It gets taken out of dues, right?
Absolutely. So they all had a fee increase of $50 a month, and there were 70 units.
So when you're talking about listing properties that have master insurance policies that are condos, I think this is a great opportunity for you to, again, not scare the client, but be prepared and say, all right, I want to see the master insurance policy and see what the deductible is, right? Because right then you can identify if you're good or if you're going to have problems on the conventional side.
Again, property management side. A lot of these HOAs have rules in their declaration that they can never raise the dues more than 10%. So what's happening is they're having to raise the deductible to 10% just to be able to afford it.
Hey, Colin, this happened to me with my listing in Maple Grove, actually.
Really?
It's a townhome, and we were ready to close yesterday. And then about a week ago, the agent calls me. He goes, yeah, there were some changes in September for Fannie and Freddie, where they're capping the deductibles or whatever at 5%. Such a mess where they are now switching it to an FHA, but this specific association did not do FHA loans. So they had to do an amendment in order to be able to do FHA loans now. Otherwise, there's no way we could have done this. But
you didn't know, right? And I mean, this is all new stuff.
Yep.
but if you're listing a condo in the future and you pull this doc as part of the resale docs, right? Before you're listing, when you're listing, as you're accepting offers, and, you call to vet the lender that sends you a pre-approval, right? With an offer. And you say, hey, by the way, I just wanted you to know that we're seeing some issues with the wind hail policy. I'm going to send you this right now. You probably want to talk to underwriting about this, or what is your thought on this, right? Because as much as we all don't know about this, like, lenders don't know this either, right? Until it blows up in their face. I think that, if you're a listing agent, you could take it upon yourself to, look at this kind of stuff going forward. And David, it's not your fault. You know what I'm saying, right? Um, in terms of FHA and spot approvals and things like that, I think you are going to see a lot more deals that flip from conventional to FHA because of this. Because what's the alternative? The alternative is doing something that is outside the bounds of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which is non-QM. You and or your transaction coordinator, we're going to be talking with Elizabeth about this, she's aware of this, right? To look at these docs and say, oh, I want to look at the homeowner's insurance, the master insurance policy, and make sure that we're not going to be, what's the wind hail deductible, and it's not hard to find. And if it is hard to find, you can just grab me or your pod leader or Matt and say, like, hey, will you look at, that's what Jen did, right? She's on the listing side. We're not involved in this deal at all. I'm happy to look at this kind of stuff and say, okay, this is what you need to ask the lender to make sure you don't have something that blows up in your face.
If they're not going to go up in the fees, right, to change the insurance policies, the plus is that we may see more buildings accepting FHA that otherwise weren't, because that may be the easier solution. And a lot of times those price points are the ones that somebody FHA needs, but yet couldn't otherwise get into the building.
If you have the seller, if you're the listing agent, those docs, besides the resale disclosure itself, they have access to them. I don't know how many people actually go onto their HOA website and know how to pull all that information, but there's going to be a general contact where they get all their emails from. All of that, besides the resale disclosure, is available to them. They just have to do it, and or you can do it as well. Most likely they're going to need some verification that you are representing them, but the doc's out there, and all you're going to do is, just prove to them that you're doing your job. You know what you're doing, proving your worth, and potentially getting ahead of any issues. Put the work in up front so we don't have any headaches on the back end and potentially blow up a deal.
So my recommendation is, if you're going to a listing appointment, make that part of that initial prep time. So that's what we did in this case, was before we actually got the full HOA packet, we got the certificate of insurance, and she was able to request it just, individually. So she just got those 3 documents first. We took a look at that, and then we requested the full package. So that way we were ahead of it. We didn't want to pay $300 for, a full packet if we were going to be in a predicament. We wanted to get through the problems first and then get it listed. So you can just ask them to get ahead of that. And it is, Matt's right, it's right on the regular HOA website.